Hey, sixth graders, it's been a while. I'm going to finish up with Ghost. And we are on chapter 10, and it's called Race Day. This is the only chapter that does not have a world's greatest, anything like that. This chapter is pretty short, and it's the last chapter in the book. I will say that I do have permission to read this to you from the publisher. Got to take care of business first. Now, don't forget, the very last thing that happened in chapter 9 was Ghost was escorted by Coach back to the sporting goods store, and he had to apologize to the sales clerk. And it was a very heartfelt, very sincere apology, and he was very thankful that Coach took him back, and he actually paid for the shoes for Ghost. And I don't think that he expected him to do that. I think that he expected him to take the shoes back and then apologize. But anyway, so Coach bought the shoes for him, and he was very thankful. And I'll read the very last part of chapter 9 just to refresh you guys. This is coming from Tia, the clerk, the gal that works at the store. She says, "Okay," she said, "I forgive you." Coach then handed over his credit card, and as Tia swiped it to pay for the shoes, Coach threw his arm around my neck, put me in a tight headlock, and whispered in my ear, "If you ever do this again, I promise I'll make room for you in my trunk." I looked at him in his face, in his eyes, not a flinch. Just that big chip-toothed smile and a scary wink. Yikes. All right, chapter 10, Race Day. Saturday, race day. My first one ever. I got up early, met by the sweet smell of bacon and eggs, neither of which were actually sweet smelling, but you know what I mean. My mother was on the phone with Aunt Sophie, telling her what time she had to be there so that we could all go over to Martin Luther King Park together. I don't know what I was more excited about, the fact that I was going to run my first race on a track team, or the fact that my mother would be there to see it. I had been seeing Lou's mom cheer for every little stupid thing that he did in practice, and after I got over how annoying it was, I realized that there was something about it that I kind of liked. So, my mom being there was major. And Aunt Sophie, because she was the loud one, she was the one who had a bullhorn for a mouth. "Don't be late, Sophie," my mom said into the phone, dishing out the eggs. Of course, anytime a person tells another person not to be late, it pretty much guarantees that that person is going to be late. I don't know why, but it does. And Aunt Sophie was late. Not like crazy late, but to the point that we couldn't make it to the track on time. It's just that we don't have a car, and we're going to have to catch the bus to the park. But the bus was supposed to come at 11:15, and Aunt Sophie and King didn't get to the house until 11:09. So they've got like 6 minutes to get to the bus stop. I don't know where the bus stop is, but 6 minutes is not a lot of time to get anywhere. I was in the bathroom staring at myself in the mirror. Coach had given me my uniform the day before, after humiliating me at the sporting goods store. Well, I kind of humiliated myself, but whatever. When we got back to the house, he told me I had earned it, and he hoped he never had to bail me out like that again. Think of all the times that Coach has had to bail him out. It's been a few, right? You know, he had to bail him out whenever he went to pick him up as his uncle at school, right? And now he had to bail him out at the sporting goods store when he had to pay for the shoes that he stole. I wouldn't really put you in the trunk," he said, smirking. "I'll just tell your mother and cut you from the team. And that's way worse. Got me?" Coach dangled my jersey and shorts in front of me, and I dead get him, big time. I made up my mind that I wouldn't do nothing that stupid ever again. At least I would try not to, especially judging from the way I felt holding that electric blue uniform. I usually get dressed in the living room, but I wanted it to be a surprise for my mom when I came out. And I couldn't have gotten dressed in the bathroom. It's too small. And I couldn't risk doing anything stupid like dropping my jersey in the toilet or something. I know it sounds impossible. Trust me, it's not. I mean, like, not like I would ever drop anything in the toilet or anything, but it can happen. So I did what I never do. What do you think it is? Think about where in his house that he hasn't been in a very long time. I got dressed in my bedroom. I stood in the middle of the room with the door wide open and pulled my shorts on, and then my jersey, and I looked around at the posters of LeBron on the wall from when he played for Cleveland the first time. My bed, the same cover, same pillow, same everything as that night. I sat on it, my body sinking into the mattress, almost like it was wrapping itself around me, hugging me, like it missed me. And if the door wasn't open, I couldn't see straight down the hall to the living room. I might have freaked out, but I didn't lose it. I just took a deep breath and let the flashes of that night come over me. My mother, flash. The covers being yanked off of me, flash. The hallway, flash. The gun, flash. Then I looked down at the floor, flash. My silver bullets were waiting for me. I unlaced them, slipped my feet into them, and then laced them tight. And just like that, I felt different. I was a defender. My mother had even gotten me a fresh haircut the night before, just for this day, and I hit the bathroom to brush it and see if maybe a few waves were popping out. Or at least make sure it wasn't one of her jacked up haircuts. Thankfully, she got it close to perfect. Almost no patches. While primping in the mirror, I heard Aunt Sophie come in. She was hollering about how they were late because she had to make a sign to hold up when I was running. Castle, my mom called from the living room. Let's go. Come on, let's go. They're here. I came out of the bathroom and my mother almost hit the floor. She put her hand over her mouth, which I only ever saw her do when somebody on one of those movies said something corny about not wanting to live without the other person, and then they kiss. Look at you, Ma said, hugging my neck, her eyes instantly wet. You look like a champion. You look like a superhero, King said. I'm gonna call you Running Man. Yeah, like the dance, Aunt Sophie said. What dance? I replied, totally confused. Doesn't matter, my mom cut in. Now back to business. She grabbed her purse. We gotta go. Anybody know what the Running Man is? You guys better know what the Running Man is. I'm not that old. Surely you know what that is. We went dashing down the block toward the bus stop, only to see the bus pulling out just before we got there. Okay, so now what's going to happen? The bus just left, so they have no transportation to get to the park. How are they going to get there? They really don't have the cash to get a cab, so what do you think is going to happen? No, Ma shouted, turning toward me. I could tell she wanted to cuss, but she didn't. She just bit her lip and then looked at me and said, I'm so sorry, baby. But it was okay. I had walked it so many times. I knew that it was only about a 15-minute trek. With all the stops the bus was going to have to make along the way, we could probably get there quicker if we walked anyway. So I told them to follow me as I took the short way. For once, imagine it, my mother in yellow pants with flowers all over them, not scrubs, and lipstick, and red cheek stuff on her face, and my aunt with jeans and sneakers and a bright pink t-shirt and baseball cap, and my cousin King dressed in shorts and a tank top and the same shoes as my beat up ones, holding a big neon sign. Imagine the three of them following me, Castle Cranshaw, dressed in an electric blue track uniform, the Defender. We walked past the fish market, the wig shop, and everything sports before I realized I had to make one quick stop. Where's he gonna stop? Anybody can guess it? Mr. Charles's store. Luckily, it sits right in the middle of everything. At least it seems like it does. Like I can always get to it no matter where I am in the city. I think maybe that was Mr. Charles's plan. He's smart like that. And I can see it even if his family don't. He's the smartest person with a store in the whole city, and maybe even the whole world. That's what I think. When we got there, I told Ma and Aunt Sophie and King to give me a second. Just need to get something, I explained. I pushed open the door, and there Mr. Charles was, standing behind the counter as usual, staring at his television. "Castle, how are you, my friend?" Mr. Charles said, holding out his hand. What's with the get-up?" "This is my track uniform, the Defenders," I explained, pointing to the gold word printed across my chest. "Who?" Mr. Charles leaned in so he could hear me. "The Defenders," I said louder. "The track team I told you about. Today's my race, my first one, and I just wanted you to see me." There was no way I could hide the excitement in my voice. "Ah!" Mr. Charles flashed a huge smile. He grabbed a bag of sunflower seeds off the wall, and then take this for good luck and pretend they're power pills," he said, which I thought was funny because for me, they kind of were, at least in my head. "Thanks, Mr. Charles. I'll tell you how it goes," I said, snatching them out of his hand. "Yes, yes, please do, son," he practically shouted, squeezing my hand. "Now get out of here. You can't be great if you're late." And after 4 or 5 more minutes, my mother and my aunt and my cousin and me came up to the park. I was used to seeing it sprinkled with only a few parents, mainly Lou's mom and a few others, and us, the runners, on the track. But on race day, there were people everywhere. From the street, you could hear the buzz of the crowd and the sounds of whistles, and you could see the track vendors and all the different colored jerseys as coaches had their teams stretching and warming up. Once we got closer, I found my squad, that electric blue standing out. "Ghost!" a voice called from behind me. It was Sonny. "Sonny, what's up, man?" And we dapped. This is my mom and my aunt and my cousin King. Sonny shook everybody's hand and told me to come get stretched and warmed up. My family lined up along the fence with who I guess was the parents for the rest of the teammates. I saw Sonny's father, Mr. Lancaster, still dressed up in a suit, but with his sunglasses on, and Patty's white mother holding her little sister Maddie up on her shoulders. And Lou's mom was there holding pom-poms, of course. And then next to her was a man who looked like Goose, the flashy dope man who hangs out on the basketball court. But it wasn't. At least I didn't think it was. Could have been. Heck, I don't know. When Sonny and I got up to where the rest of the team was, everyone was sitting down with their legs out in front of them, holding the tips of their feet and pulling. It hurts like crazy, but Coach said it's good for us. The team looked at me and I sat down. They all noticed the uniform and the silver bullets. I was dressed. I was a Defender, and I was ready. "Okay," Coach said, needing to speak much louder than he usually did so we could hear him over the crowd. "I've got the lineup. Let's start with a distance race. Running the mile, we have Sonny for the guys and Lynn for the girls. For the 800, Mikey, you're taking Chris's place. Outlaw, you're taking second heat. And for the girls, Patty, you got this. Deja, you got second heat. When Coach got up to the 200 meter, he looked at me and Lou, and then he looked down at his clipboard and then looked back at us. Lou, you're going to take the 200, Coach said, and the 100 and the 100. Lou held back a smile and nodded. Coach got me. I thought, wait, he was going to let me run. But I guess this was the real last part of my punishment. I tried not to act disappointed, and I looked over at my family and King and Aunt Sophie holding the sign and wanting to lift it into the air and scream like maniacs, and Ma standing there so proud of me. And Ghost, Coach said, glancing over at Coach Witt. Then back at me. I snapped out of my trance. You think you can handle the 100 too? I grinned. I couldn't even get yes out of my mouth. Such a short, very small word, but I couldn't spit it out, so I just nodded. And I swallowed the yes, hoping it might go down my throat, through my stomach, guts, and down into my legs. We're not going to run any relays or hurdles yet, Coach said. This is the first meet, and we've got some work to do. But I'm watching each and every one of you, so let's get this done, or let's get out there and burn. We all went to the side of the track and waited for our races. Everyone was so hyped, jumping around and trying to stay loose, and Lou's mother came over to us and gave us a container full of orange slices, which I thought was super nice, but I didn't want any oranges. And I met Coach's wife, Mrs. Margot, and their baby son, Tyrone. The crazy thing was, even though Coach was an Otis and a chip-toothed turtle face, Mrs. Margot was pretty and so nice, and she passed out Gatorades to everyone. But when she got to me, she thanked me for cleaning out Coach's cab. That made me feel special, but I really didn't want no oranges or no Gatorade. I had my power pills, my sunflower seeds. I ran over to my mother, who had them tucked into her purse, and she handed me the bag. Then she grabbed me and hugged me once again. I am so proud of you, she said. Then she caught me slipping and added, Ghost. Ah! She called him Ghost. I don't think she's ever done that before. You must have heard Sonny say it, or she must have heard Sonny say it, or somebody. But she now knew my nickname, the name I gave myself, and judging from her bright smile, I think she liked it. I had no idea that being on a team would make her so lovey-dovey, but it was cool. It reminded me of how it used to be, back when we slept in our rooms and there were family pictures on the wall. Back with the rest of the defenders, I ate the sunflower seeds one by one, waiting for my race, my chance. The first race of the relay was a relay, the boys 4x800. I got to sit and watch them to see how races really went down. Since we weren't running relays, runners from 8 different teams lined up on their lines and staggered at different starting points. The Bruisers, the Wings, and a bunch of other silly names that were nowhere near as dope as Defenders. Everybody put one foot forward and just barely touching the line and leaned in, and some wriggling their fingers, and then as this caught me totally off guard, there was a gunshot, which is the thing that tells you to go. It'll tell you I'll tell you one thing. It made me feel like a little weird, but whatever. Whoever invented track got the whole gun means go thing right. Okay, all right, we are 20 minutes in. How much do we have left? All right, I'm going to try to finish this book. The crowd started screaming as the boys burned the track up. One of the teams, I think they were called the Assassins, dropped the baton, and it made a clinking sound, which in a nutshell, is what losing sounds like. It's hard to come back from that. After the boys were the girls, and Patty came over to me and told me how she felt like she could pretty much smoke all the girls out there. And I believed her. Patty was definitely going to be a problem. And when he says be a problem, he doesn't mean she's going to cause trouble. Like she's not going to be ugly to any of the other runners. What does she mean? She's going to be a problem. She's going to be a problem for the other runners because she's going to be so fast out on the track. Next was the boys' 100-meter hurdle, which was the most exciting thing I think I'd ever seen. It was crazy. I asked Coach if we were going to run hurdles, and he told me that we would, but it takes some real work. He said that the kids who left the team and went to high school, the kids whose spots we filled, were amazing hurdlers. Then he said we used to run hurdles while tapping his hand on his chest. His secret tattooed Olympic medal. I told him I wanted to do it, and he told me to focus on today. Then came the girls' hurdles, which the crowd seemed to be into more than the boys. Patty was jumping up and down screaming because one of her friends was running. The girl didn't win first, but she did come in second, which wasn't bad. And then came the 100-meter dash. Lou, Ghost, Coach called out, y'all ready? Me and Lou nodded. And Coach said what he always says, this time with a return nod, on the line. We stepped up to the track and walked down to the end. Lou's mom instantly started screaming and waving those stupid pom-poms. No clue what she was saying, but whatever it was loud. Until Aunt Sophie, C-A-S-T-L-E, Aunt Sophie screamed, smoke 'em, burn 'em, dust 'em, roast 'em, she shrieked. It was like her and Lou's mom were a perfect out-of-control cheerleading pair. I looked over and King was holding the sign above his head. It said, Castle Cranshaw ain't no joke. You are. Nice. All the runners from all the different teams were slapping hands. Then when I saw him, no way, no freaking way. He ran? He ran? By now, you know who I'm talking about. Brandon Simmons. He was standing in lane 8, running for a team that called themselves the Bolts. He saw me the same time I saw him, and he looked as shocked as I was. You run? I asked, coming toward him. Brandon was a runner? He was tall enough to play ball, so I always just assumed that's what he did. Then again, I should have known better because he had those slimy hands. Can't nobody hold a ball with them butterfingers. You run, he responded, wiping his hands ironically on his shorts. Then he smirked and shot breath out of his nose like he couldn't believe it. Like I was some kind of joke. Like he ain't seen no King, or he hadn't seen the sign that King was holding up. Yeah, Lou said from behind me, and he put his hand on my shoulder. He runs real fast, he said, taunting Brandon. Lou pulled me into him and grabbed me by the neck, grabbed me by the back of the neck. It's me and you, he said, snapping me out of Brandon Simmons' nightmare state and back into focus. Had I known Brandon was a runner, I would have told Dre and Red to come to the meet just so they could see me smoke him. Shoot, I might have invited the whole school, even Principal Marshall. Maybe even would have told Shamika to bring that crazy laugh of hers to the special occasion. Lou gave me 5 and then repeated, it's me. And he pointed to himself, and you. And he put his finger on my chest. I was in lane 6 and Lou was in lane 1. I bent down, untied my silver shoes, and then retied them. I looked around at the crowd, a smear of people rooting for their friend or son or brother or teammate. Somebody was probably even rooting for Brandon. Then I looked over at the side where the defenders were, Coach clapping a proud grin on his face. Sonny cheering, an orange slice in his mouth, and the peel like a bright orange mouthpiece. And Patty, who, by the way, had on shiny lip stuff and had her hair all greased and slicked back straight, squatted down and stared, almost like she was mind-beaming speed to me. She nodded, and I nodded. My mother, looking at me with wet eyes, she waved, and all I could think about at that moment was the two of us running down the hallway 3 years ago. On your mark, said the starter. My heart thump, 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 and I could feel my insides turning colors. I'm not sure what color, not red, not blue, something else, something different, a color I'd never felt before. I squatted down, I pushed my feet back against the blocks, stretched out my thumbs and my index finger and placed them on the edge of the white starting line, rested my weight on my arms, closed my eyes. Thought of us running to the door, running for our lives. Get set, said the starter, butts in the air. The sound of the gun cocking, the sound of the door unlocking. Heart pounding, breathe, breathe, breathe. Silence, this is it, this is it. And then, boom. And that's it. That's where the book ends. The good news is that if you decide to read Patina, which is the next book, it's about Patty, this book picks up where this one leaves off. And it's got a very, very, very interesting start, and I think you would love it if you wanted to read it. Well, that's it, 6th graders. Typically, y'all are not even really 6th graders anymore. You're 7th graders now. And I'm going to miss each and every one of you. And before I start bawling like a big baby, I'm going to say goodbye. I love y'all.